Chiro here for Umbra Games with the review of Owlboy, played on PlayStation 4 for the review, also available on Switch, Xbox One, and PC. Owlboy was developed by D-Pad Studio, and physical copies were published for consoles by Sodesco. Owlboy tells the story of Otus, a mute owl person who struggles at being good at anything owl people are supposed to be good at. When pirates attack his village and steal a relic, he and his best friend Getty set out to save what's left of the world. I say that because the world's land masses all float in the air, leaving the planet to be a desolate ocean, so in this quote platformer game, it's pretty significant that your character can fly. I can't recall a game that actually touches on themes of failure more than this one either. I mean, sure, we have our underdog situation where stories will start with failing to protect someone, but those often are a turnaround point for the character, and then they're elite from that point on. This game continues to shove emotional adversity with some pretty high stakes, very nearly up until the end, which definitely provides a bit different story than what we're used to. This game is sort of set up like an open world mission procedural game, even close to item procedural I guess, but you get so few new abilities to access so few new areas, and you lose those abilities from time to time due to plot points, that I hesitate to throw it into that subgenre. A good part of the 7-8 hour game has one central area as its hub, and performing your task in the area that's open to you based on your character collection does happen, but once you're in that area it almost plays out like a standalone level, that often leads to an additional stage that's isolated and can't even be returned to, whereas item procedurals are more focused on a truly open world. As such, the game features a few different temples and dungeons with some switch-hitting puzzles to progress. The areas are quite distinct in appearance, and the aesthetics of the puzzles in each dungeon also change significantly. A few of these areas require some stealth, which you think with an ability to fly, i.e. go anywhere on the screen, as well as the roll motion Otus gets, would make this a little more simple, but it's pretty unforgiving, particularly in one stage if you're caught. Checkpoints are fairly frequent, but when running through the alarms of poisonous death clouds as fast as possible to hit the next checkpoint so you'll start on the other side of that trap as an actual strategy you employ, had to question the design of that just a bit. Most of the areas culminate in boss fights though that employ unique mechanics and pattern watching, leaving the gameplay providing you with a decent amount of diversity. Otus himself is incapable of attacking. I mean, he has a little spin, but he usually just stuns enemies, and instead he can summon Getty and carry him through the air. While flying, you use the left stick to control Otus's direction, and the right stick to have Getty aim his pistol. You can summon these friends by pressing the fire button and dismiss them with a tap of the square button. Firing again will summon the last character you used, and when you have more than one, you can flip between them with R1 and L1. The game does auto-target for you pretty heavily, so if you press in a general direction, you'll see a reticle appear on your target, and that's the direction your passenger will try and hit. I'm guessing they had to do some quality assurance with and without this method to make their final decision to have this auto-targeting, but I found it really limiting. On giant boss monsters or enemies that move fast, you weren't able to lead the target with your shots. One other minor control issue I found annoying is it says to press X after jumping to fly, but unfortunately, pressing up on the controller also makes you fly. In tense situations where you're moving quickly, I often found Otus taking flight unintentionally, and with something so clear as a second button press while in the air, I'm not really sure why that control was duplicated. Also, I'm not sure I've played many games where the action executes on the release of a button. For example, there's vegetables on the ground that Otus can pull up and eat. You hover over the leaves and press L2, and then up to pull it out. But holding L2 doesn't work. It's not the pushing down of the L2 that does the action, it's when you release L2 that makes Otus use his pulling animation, where then he pulls up. R2 is to consume the vegetable, and it's the same thing. It was just odd. So if you're not familiar with the term bullet hell when it comes to games, it essentially boils down to patterns of enemy fire coming your direction where you have to find pathways through their projectiles while returning your own. There are a couple boss fights that end up playing out like this quite a bit. Now, if you've ever played one of these games, one of the ways you'll find of actually getting good at it is to sort of blur your vision and focus on the outline of things, looking at the full picture instead of focusing on your character. In Owlboy, as I mentioned, the only way you shoot is by carrying someone. The thing is, who you carry is not part of your hitbox. When you're focusing out, big picture style, it actually makes it more difficult to realize only the top part of you is damageable. Secondly, in a situation or two, the screen will scroll in this situation at its edges. And in a bullet hell, instead of it being one solid screen, that can be really difficult. Finally, one particular boss would throw knives, and when the knives hit the wall, they would bounce off and blink in and out as if they were disappearing. They wouldn't do any damage at this time. Another distraction that a bullet hell fan would find annoying. Now there is one set of collectibles in Owlboy, and that's coins that can be found by opening treasure chests and flying through hoops. These coins can be taken to a shop and not spent, but various thresholds of your total coin count will unlock new blocks for your HP meter, aesthetic hats you can wear, and if you find enough, eventually get weapon enhancements for the 3 characters Otus will be carrying around. There's a counter of how many coins have been discovered in each area, and they seem to only be in the stages of which can be revisited, fortunately. But thinking about traveling back to each dungeon to find the missing counts didn't even enter my mind because of the traveling and the lack of fast travel involved in doing so. Now, if you haven't noticed by now, D-Pad Studio did an amazing job on the pixel art with Owlboy. This is some of the best 2D work I think I've seen lately, with an abundance of character emotions, so much differentiation between the various sprites, and man, that aesthetic is just so happy and bright. You can tell a lot of effort was also put into the game's musical score, making it stand out as well. Overall, Owlboy contains a unique story with colorful characters, some aggravating control issues, but neat concepts, not having Otus himself be able to shoot, but also brought about some bullet hell issues with hitboxes and disappearing projectiles. Revisiting locations to scour for coins was more of a chore than a treasure hunt, and the store system was also a bit rigid. But the pixel art is fabulously done in design and animation, and the accompanying musical score was also a treat. Rated as a 2D open world mission procedural platformer, Owlboy hits a 70 out of 100 on my true 0 to 100 scale, where 50 is an average game. This is Jiro for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching.